tell me when.
Go ahead.
All right, awesome. All right, so I'm going to be decorating a sailboat cookie using royal icing. So I have two different consistencies. One of them is called piping icing, which is the one in these bags. The other one is called flooding icing, which are in the bags that don't have tips on the ends of them. The difference between piping and flooding icing is piping icing is thicker, so it creates, you would use it to outline the area that you want to fill in, and it creates kind of a dam for the icing. The flooding icing is much thinner, and it's not runny like water, but it's more liquid and kind of pours to the side. So the first thing that I'm going to do to each of these little sections, this cookie cutter is kind of neat because it has an imprint in it. Most of the cookie cutters that I work with don't have this imprint, but these were actually just given to me by my husband's family. His grandmother unfortunately passed away a few months ago, and I inherited her cookie cutters. So this is my first time using them, and it's kind of neat that they were once hers. So the first thing I'm going to do on this is outline the bottom of the sailboat with blue piping icing. So once again, this is the icing that is thicker. And because royal icing is made with an egg base, it has kind of like an elasticity to it. So when you're piping, you're actually not drawing, you're kind of squeezing the icing out like a rope and then laying it down. And then you go back with the thinner flood icing. And as you can see, when you put this on, it just kind of moves, pours to the sides. But the piped line is like a dam on the outside, and it prevents the flood icing from going further than that line. Because I'm kind of a perfectionist, I do like to use this little tool, which is food safe. It's stainless steel, and it's basically like a metal toothpick. And I just smooth the icing out a little bit. Royal icing is made by whipping the icing at a high speed, so there are air bubbles that end up kind of getting trapped in there. So it's nice to pop them. If you don't pop them now, they'll end up as like a big, either a crater or a bubble or some kind of imperfection later. So next I'm going to take this chartreuse color and outline one of the sails. When I fill in these triangle areas, if you watch, I kind of start in the middle and then bring the icing along to the sides. And I don't ever really touch the corners because the icing is a lot thicker than the corner is, and so I'm just going to use that little stylus that you saw to push it into the corners and have so that they'll be nice and pointy and neat. If I just use this bag, everything will be rounded and it won't give the look that I want. So see, just kind of pushing it in, meeting it in the middle. I don't know if you can see this bubble right here, but they don't seem like a big deal until the icing dries, and it just kind of looks sloppy and uneven. Okay, so the final one, and the other thing you can do too is kind of shake the cookie a little bit, and it takes and levels the icing. So this final little sail, I'm going to show you how to do something very simple and really cute. So it starts the same way, piping the triangle, outline to keep the icing where you want it, flooding in the middle. This time I'm not going to flood it as thickly as the other ones because I'm going to be adding something on top of it and you don't want it to end up overflowing. So I'm going to leave lots of space and just use the stylus to bring the icing to the edges. I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake just to even it out. Okay, and then the final step, I have the same blue flood icing. I just have it in a smaller bag so I can control it a little bit more. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out to make some little polka dots on this sail. What's really cool is you don't have to worry about shaping it. It's just dots, just squeezing a little tiny blob out, and it just kind of spreads to make those perfect little circles. Sometimes the icing will, you'll get little clumps of sugar that don't mix perfectly, and you can feel when you're squeezing the icing out, it clogs the tip a little bit, so you just have to make sure to clean it off. So there we go. You can be done there. You can add more details, but if you're going to move on to the next step, you have to kind of let everything dry, and then you can write a word on it or add more detail.